there's one scene in James and the Giant Peach that transforms it for me from a good film to an amazingly entertaining film. And that one scene involves a model of the house on the hill with an actual peach rolling down it. Now, I'm not saying it's blatantly obvious that it's an actual normal-sized peach on a model of a hill, but it's absolutely brilliant. And this film is just an absolute visual treat, no matter what age you are. But it's one that I find particularly great for studying claymation and stop-motion animation. And obviously, it's got an incredible team behind it. So the film was released in 1996. I don't remember when I first saw it. I have absolutely no idea. But I have watched it many times since. One common misconception I want to clear up first of all is that it isn't directed by Tim Burton. It is directed by Henry Selick, who also directed Nightmare Before Christmas. Burton did produce this, and there is a small Easter egg in here. There's a small Jack Skellington Easter egg. So if you've seen the film before but don't remember it, that's a pretty good reason to go back and watch it to try and spot Jack Skellington. Now that you know he's there, I think you won't miss him. And this is obviously based on the book by Roald Dahl. And I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever read it. I don't believe I've read it. And this is about a young boy called James and a giant peach. The description from IMDb is as follows. An orphan who lives with his two cruel aunts befriends anthropomorphic bugs who live inside a giant peach, and they embark on a journey to New York City. Very interesting concept. And James is played by Paul Terry, who, interesting fact, is actually now a maths teacher, I believe. I've had a small email conversation with him, but nothing beyond that, but I'm pretty sure it's a maths teacher. That's completely irrelevant, just a fun fact. And he escapes from his cruel aunts. His aunts are played by Joanna Lumley and Miriam Margolyes. Margolyes is just absolutely fabulous. Ironic choice of phrasing there. And James disappears into this peach, and while he's there, he's with these other little critters. We have the grasshopper, Simon Callow, the centipede, Richard Dreyfuss, the ladybug, Jane Leaves, and spider is Susan Sarandon, the earthworm is David Thewlis. Absolutely phenomenal voice cast playing these really interesting characters, each of whom has a different kind of personality. And inside of this peach, they go off on an adventure. And they get into all kinds of weird situations, none of which I'm actually going to describe because I don't want to spoil the fun scenes that you'll come across in this one, but they get themselves into some ludicrous situations. The visual quality is amazing. The transition from live action to animation is beautiful, particularly when James enters the peach. I think that scene there is really compelling, even to my adult eyes. As a child, I can only imagine how thrilling that would have been to see. And this magic is kind of carried right throughout. I love the design, the visual appeal of the giant peach. The spider, I think, looks brilliant. The facial style is expressive. It's not the most articulate animation, but I kind of feel like that's part of the point. It's fun, it's innocent, it's a sweet film. And it's something that I think will appeal to anybody. The ending is perhaps unpredictable. I'm obviously not going to say what happens, but it's quite an intense, heart-racing ending, actually. It's a lot more climactic than I would have expected. I can see why people might have assumed this was directed by Tim Burton. There are certain hallmarks in this that you could associate with Burton's style, but at the same time, Henry Selick, Nightmare Before Christmas, it's all kind of very similar. And you can kind of marry the two together if you wish to. As I said, I can't remember having read the novel, so I can't say how 100% accurate it is to the story, but to the best of my knowledge, I believe it's accurate. It's so magical. It's magical, a little bit emotional. If you allow yourself, you could read into this something a little bit more seriously. Some of the plot keywords on IMDb for this include child labour and child slavery. Now, I think that's maybe a little bit over the top, but you can read that into it if you wish. Personally, I enjoy it as something more of an escape, so I don't like to look into it too seriously. But it develops wonderfully from start to finish. As I said, my favourite scene in the whole thing is when the real-size Peach rolls down the model of the house on the hill. And it's just, every time I see that, I just love it. That, and of course, the feature of Jack Skellington. It is brilliant. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't seen it, definitely give it a watch. Doesn't matter if you've not read the book, or indeed if you're not familiar with any of Roald Dahl's work. It's a brilliant film. I'm not sure if it's one that the younger generations of today are overly familiar with. I think, being released in 96, I was 4 years old. It's a film that my generation grew up loving. Don't know if it's really being pushed a lot now or, on TV much. But I love it. I always will. Henry Selick is amazing, and this will always hold a special place in my heart. If you haven't seen James and the Giant Peach, I fully recommend that you do.